Have you ever heard of the present perfect? Have you ever wondered why we talk like this in English? Well, I just used a couple examples of the present perfect and I actually use it a lot. So if you've had that question, how we use the present perfect, why we use the present perfect, and if it's really important in English, well, stick around. It's my great pleasure to be here today for Grammar Fundamentals, and we're going to be talking about the present perfect. First of all, let's talk about what the heck this is. Yeah? The present perfect is another way to talk about the past, but we use it when we talk about the past when it's not specific. So we talked about, last time we talked about the simple past where we say, I went to the store. But if I'm talking about the past not so specific, I went to the store yesterday. In general, I would say I have gone to the store many times. So usually the present perfect we use when it's not so specific, and also when something started in the past but it continues to the present. So we use words like since, before, so far, yet, already. These are our key words for the present perfect. So a couple examples. I have lived in Brazil since 2007. I still live here, so I have lived here since 2007. You have studied English for a long time. How long? A long time. And you continue to study English. We have studied together. We're going to continue to study together, and we'll keep going. Yeah? They have gotten better and better and better. Right? Make sense? Hopefully a little bit. We'll make it a little simpler, as simple as possible. Okay, let's look at how we actually create the present perfect. As you heard, we use, one of the reasons why I think they call it the present perfect is because you use have and has from the present when we talk about the past. So we use have and has plus the past participle, which is that ido. Yeah? So listen to this. We say, I have gone to the store, right? You have studied for many years. She has worked very hard to improve her pronunciation. He has dedicated himself to becoming better. We have decided to make ourselves better every single day. And they have practiced every single day. Make sense? That's how we use it. But we'll look at even more examples. Yeah? Another important thing to talk about here as well is we say many times, time is money. This is the case as well in the present perfect. So we usually, very often, use the contraction when we talk about the present perfect. So of course I can say I have gone, but I'm usually going to say I've gone. So I've gone to the store. You've studied for a long time. So I use apostrophe VE. Now, it might get a little tricky. She's studied very hard. She's, apostrophe S. He's really dedicated himself, apostrophe S. It's been hard work, apostrophe S. We've been together for a while now, and they've studied every single day. Now the key trick here is that with I, you, we, they, we use apostrophe VE. But with he, she, it, we use apostrophe S. And you might be wondering, what's the difference? How do we know if it's has or it's? We don't. The only difference is context. So if I say, she's great, she is great. She's been great. She has been great, right? So it's only in context where we know if someone's saying is or has, but that apostrophe S is the same. And that's probably, well, it doesn't mean that people have to use that, but again, time is money. So most native speakers will usually use that contraction when they talk in the present perfect. So let's move on and talk a little bit more about those negatives and questions. So with negatives in the present perfect, one of the things that you'll see the most is the use of yet. We haven't worked together yet. You haven't mastered the present perfect yet. So that ainda, right? We often use that negative. So all you can hear, we just use have not. Again, time is money, so we're usually going to say haven't. But you could say have not. Normally, haven't. Yeah? She hasn't learned everything yet. He hasn't learned it all. We haven't learned everything yet. They've decided to keep going and learn every day, right? Because they haven't learned everything yet. You can hear we just use the haven't or hasn't, okay? Got it? And what about the questions? Well, the questions we do the old flipperoo like we've done in the other instances. So listen to the flipperoo here. Have you studied? Yeah? Have you studied? I have studied, right? She has worked. Has she worked? There's the old flipperoo. He has worked very hard. Has he worked very hard? We haven't worked together yet. Have we worked together yet? Make sense? That's what we do for the questions. We just do the old flipperoo, like we've seen in almost all of the other grammar tenses in English. That's how we do a question. So let's move on to what is really the difference between the simple past and the present perfect. This is something that trips people up a lot because in Portuguese, you're going to usually use the simple past and you very rarely use the present perfect. I very rarely hear people say, eu tenho ido lá. No, eu fui lá. But in English, I'll say, oh, I've been there. I might say I went there if it was yesterday, but only if it was yesterday or very specific. Otherwise, I'm probably going to use that present perfect. So that's what makes it a little tricky. So that's what we need to keep in mind. That's the difference between the present perfect and the simple past is how specific is it? So if I'm using specific dates, simple past. If I don't have a specific date, if it's in my lifetime, present perfect. So for example, she worked there in 2007. She doesn't work there anymore. Or she has worked there forever. She still works there. Or she worked here. Well, I know in that statement she doesn't work here anymore because she worked here over. Whereas she has worked here. She has worked here for a long time. She has worked here forever. Means she continues to work here. Or she has worked here since 2005. Makes sense? The same thing with lived. Let's look at that example. He lived here for 15 years. He doesn't live here anymore, which is why I use the simple past. Versus she's lived here for 15 years. She still lives here because she's lived here. Means she continues to live here. Or she's lived here since 2007, right? She continues to live here. So just by making that choice, by you deciding whether you're going to use a simple past or the present perfect, and people are going to make that choice, you can tell whether something's over and done or whether it continues. Yeah? Probably the other thing, I'm going to give you another example of that specificity, right? It's a little tricky, the question of specificity. So for example, if I use since 2007, it continues. But if I use 2007 like I went to Europe in 2006. Very specific. I went there. But if I say, I've been to Europe, more broad. I'm not telling you specific information. I use the present perfect. That's the difference. Now, we've got a couple tricky things, of course, just to make life exciting, right? So when we use the word times, for example, we always use the present perfect. And I don't know why. That's just the way it is. If I say, I've been there 3 times, maybe it's kind of specific, but I don't know. We use the present perfect. I've been there 3 times. I've been there 25 times. I guess it's kind of specific, but we use the present perfect when we use the word times. Yeah? So that's an important one to remember and just keep on your radar. And like everything else, we get good at the present perfect. We understand it. We can actually really use it when we practice, 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 practice. How do we remember it? How do we make these grammar rules make sense? We put it into practice. We do it. So let me, as always, give you some ways to practice these grammar fundamentals. So let's look at some cool ways to practice the present perfect. And again, this is the way you'll learn it. There's no magic pill. There's no way that it's just gonna come down from the sky. We gotta practice. Practice, practice, practice makes great. It's true. So let's look. Number 1, what's a great way to practice? Well, I like to say that the present perfect is used at parties, and it's true. If you listen to the way we talk, usually when we ask questions, so often when we don't know about people, we want to find out more about people, we use the present perfect. Why? Because we don't know, right? If I ask you questions, and I want to find out more about you, I'm usually going to use the present perfect because I don't know, right? So start out number 1, write some questions you could ask someone at a party, like, have you ever been here before? Have you ever tried this food before? Have you ever talked to Chris? Have you ever eaten calamari? Right? You could ask as many questions, but all of these questions, all of those questions you're going to ask someone at a party, but also when you're at a conference, at a business fair. This becomes very important. Have you ever been to this conference before? Have you ever been to Atlanta? Have you ever gone to that restaurant? Have you ever heard her speak? All of these questions, asking people for information, getting to know them, we use the present perfect. So give that a try. Write some getting to know you questions for a party or a conference, business fair. Number 2, answer those questions. Give it a try answering them in the present perfect and the simple past. This is great because I often say it's a bad party. It's a bad conversation often if somebody answers all the time in the present perfect because they don't give you any information. So if I ask you, have you ever been to this conference? And you say, yes, I have. Well, that's the correct answer. It's true, you have. But you want to give me more information, so I'm probably going to use the simple past. Have you ever been to this conference? Yes, I have. I came here for the first time 5 years ago. Then I took the next year off. But last year when I was here, there were some amazing speakers, and I knew I had to come again this year. For example, yeah, so I'm giving you more information, so I can use the present perfect to give you a very vague response, and more specific information, details, simple past. So go ahead and practice giving more details. You can give your own answers, giving more vague and more detailed answers using the present perfect, simple past. Number 3, talk about your history. Just talk about things that you've done, things that you've eaten, places you've gone, things that you've learned, people you've met. Yeah? This is also a great way to use the present perfect. Of course, if you're going to give more specific information, you'll use the simple past. But if I'm painting a general picture of my history, I'm going to use the present perfect. I have been to lots of different countries. I have learned lots of things. Yeah, when I want to talk a little bit broader about myself, I'm going to use the present perfect. So give that a try. Talk about things that you've done, places you've been, people you've met. Okay? And then number 4, talk about your family. Talk about the people you love. Talk about your coworkers. Talk about other people, the things they've done, the people they've met, the things they've learned, projects they've worked on. Yeah? And you can make that distinction between the present perfect and the simple past. They've worked at this company for many years. They've been working on Python. They've been working using Python for 5 years. And they worked on that project last year, right? He's been a project manager for 7 years now. He's worked for HP, Dell, and other companies. He's used lots of programming language. He's worked with lots of different types of teams. He's actually also been a Scrum Master. Look, I'm giving lots of information about the general past of someone, but I'm not giving you exactly that specific information, right? Things that he's done, things that she's done, things that other people have done, and then I can give some specific information. She worked on that project last year. She was a Scrum Master for that project last year, for example. Okay? Great. And then number 5, let's see. What if we do a little game? How about playing a little game? My idea is to play a little game called Have You Ever? Yeah? More or less, we've done this in the other activities, but this is a fun one, yeah? Invite your friends, invite some colleagues, invite your family. Play this game called Have You Ever? What do? You ask a question, have you ever? You can think of something simple, or if you want to make it real fun, yeah, something a little bit crazy. Of course, in the movies, they play this a lot as a drinking game, and it can get a little wild. Hey, if you want to play it as a drinking game and get a little wild, you can do it too. But the important thing is to ask, have you ever? Have you ever tried calamari? Have you ever eaten ceviche? Have you ever heard of kombucha? Right? Have you ever talked to me in person? Have we ever had a conversation? For example, I don't know, right? So you ask people these questions, they'll give you your answers. Have you ever? Yeah? So those are 5 ways you can practice the present perfect. And again, that is the key. Is the present perfect easy? Well, I'm not going to say it's easy. It gets easier and easier the more you practice. So practice. The more you practice, the more it'll start making sense. It'll start clicking. And you'll start to feel the way we use it in English because it is different than Portuguese. And this is one of those specific places where it's so important to practice because it is quite different than what you're used to. So practice, 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 practice. I hope this simplified it a little bit, gave you some good guidelines for how to use the present perfect and some ways to practice. Enjoy, and any questions you have, let me know. And thanks so much for being with me. It's a pleasure as always to talk to you, and I'm looking forward to the next time. All the best, much light and love, and see you next time. Ciao, ciao.